Today, I'll explain the complete story of the Korean thriller Her Hobby, 2023. Jeong-in finally found the courage to escape a marriage filled with violence and suffering. After leaving her husband, she returned to the small village where she grew up. Carrying both physical and emotional scars, she only wanted to live a quiet and peaceful life with her grandmother. However, things were not as simple as she hoped. In the conservative rural community, many people looked down on divorced women. Instead of seeing Jeong-in as someone who had escaped a difficult situation, they treated her unfairly and judged her constantly. Soon, Jeong-in realized that her hometown was far from the peaceful place she remembered. The villagers gossiped about Jeong-in every day. Instead of showing sympathy, they mocked her and treated her painful past as entertainment. They constantly judged her for being divorced and even tried to arrange a new marriage for her with a wealthy farm owner. To the villagers, this seemed like a great opportunity. They believed that a divorced woman should be grateful if a rich man wanted to marry her. But they had no idea that this farm owner was the same man who had haunted Jeong-in's life since she was 16 years old. Back then, he had repeatedly harassed her and crossed her boundaries, leaving her with painful memories that she could never forget. As the villagers continued to support the marriage, the man became convinced that Jeong-in would eventually belong to him. Almost every night, he appeared outside her window, whispering disturbing words and refusing to leave her alone. Terrified, Jeong-in stayed hidden inside her house, clutching a pair of scissors for protection. Yet despite her fear, she still lacked the courage to fight back. Years of abuse from her husband and painful memories from her childhood left Jeong-in emotionally broken. She suffered from severe trauma and lived in constant fear. Because of everything she had been through, she felt powerless and believed that fighting back would only make things worse. As a result, she remained trapped in her fear and loneliness. Just when Jeong-in felt completely hopeless, a mysterious woman named Hye-jung moved into the village. The two women were completely different from each other. While Jeong-in was quiet, shy, and afraid, Hye-jung was confident, stylish, and fearless. Even though Hye-jung was a widow, she lived life on her own terms. She wore fashionable clothes, drove an expensive-looking car, and carried herself with such confidence that most people were too intimidated to approach her. One day, a food delivery driver with a criminal past and an electronic ankle monitor arrived at Hye-jung's house. However, the delivery driver soon revealed his bad intentions. He began making excuses to enter Hye-jung's house. Hye-jung immediately recognized the danger and threw him out without hesitation. As the driver walked away, a disturbing smile appeared on his face. Jeong-in witnessed the entire incident. Worried for Hye-jung's safety, she gathered the courage to warn her. Speaking quietly and nervously, Jeong-in explained that the man was dangerous. To her surprise, Hye-jung simply smiled and calmly told her not to worry because he would never come back again. Those words shocked Jeong-in, and she wasn't sure whether Hye-jung meant exactly what she thought she did. Over the next few days, the delivery driver completely disappeared. Later, his body was found beneath the frozen river. Although Jeong-in suspected what had happened, she was far too frightened to ask any questions. Meanwhile, the farm owner's harassment became even worse. One day, he began violently shaking Jeong-in's window and trying to force his way inside. Terrified and helpless, Jeong-in felt all hope slipping away. At that critical moment, Hye-jung noticed what was happening from her house next door. Instead of calling the police, she carried powerful speakers onto her balcony and turned the volume to the maximum. The deafening sound startled the farm owner so badly that he immediately ran away in fear. After this incident, the two women, both rejected by society in different ways, became each other's only source of comfort. In a village filled with cruelty and judgment, they found friendship and understanding in one another. Eventually, Jeong-in opened her heart and tearfully shared the painful experiences she had endured since childhood. After listening carefully, Hye-jung became serious and said only one sentence. People always find excuses to avoid taking responsibility. Those words struck Jeong-in deeply, like a light shining through the darkness that had surrounded her for years. But before either of them realized it, fate was already preparing to change their lives forever. One day, Jeong-in hired a worker to repair the damaged floor of her old house. While removing the wooden boards, they made a shocking discovery: a large amount of cash hidden underneath the floor. It was money that her grandmother had secretly saved over many years as a final gift to protect Jeong-in's future. This money should have given Jeong-in the chance to leave the village and start a new life. However, she never expected the greed of the villagers to become her next nightmare. As soon as the repair worker left, he spread the news about the hidden money. Overnight, the entire village became obsessed with it. Instead of helping Jeong-in, the villagers held a meeting to discuss how they could take a share of the money for themselves. To justify their actions, they even contacted Jeong-in's abusive ex-husband, chose him as their representative, and demanded that Jeong-in hand over the money so that every family in the village could receive a portion. In this isolated community, the power of the crowd had turned ordinary people into something frightening. Soon, Jeong-in's ex-husband returned. He wasn't there just for the money, he also wanted to regain control over her life. When Jeong-in refused to accept him, he attacked her once again. After seeing the injuries on her face, Jeong-in's childhood friend was heartbroken. But Jeong-in herself appeared strangely calm. This was not the calmness of surrender, it was the silence before a major change. That night, Jeong-in had a disturbing dream about all the people who had hurt her. When she woke up, something inside her had changed completely. The frightened and obedient woman who had suffered in silence for years no longer existed. The next day, Jeong-in made a decision that marked the beginning of her revenge. She took the scissors she had carried for years as protection and threw them into the grass near the farm. Not long afterward, the farm owner arrived to work in the field. An accident occurred, leaving him seriously injured. Later, Jeong-in visited him in the hospital. For the first time, she looked at the man who had terrified her for years without any fear. Instead, she faced him with a confidence and determination he had never seen before. The farm owner was stunned by Jeong-in's confidence. The woman he had once terrified and controlled now looked at him without a trace of fear, leaving him completely shocked. After that, Jeong-in turned around and walked straight out of the hospital room. This was only the beginning of her revenge plan. Next, Jeong-in turned her attention toward the head of the village women's association, the woman who had organized the meeting to divide the money. If she had not turned Jeong-in's trauma at the age of 16 into village gossip, the others would never have joined in. And if she had not become obsessed with Jeong-in's money and encouraged everyone to take it, the ex-husband would never have returned. After observing her habits, Jeong-in discovered that the woman regularly drank soju. She secretly entered the woman's home and injected a powerful agricultural chemical directly into the bottle of soju. The next day, the head of the Women's Association and her husband both lost their lives after drinking it, meeting a horrifying end. As Jeong-in watched the two of them being taken away by ambulance, a cold sense of satisfaction rose inside her. Next came her final target, the abusive ex-husband who had caused countless physical and emotional nightmares throughout her life. Jeong-in understood the full extent of his greed. So, she created a fake bank book showing an enormous balance, placed it on top of the refrigerator, and deliberately left one corner visible to attract his attention. Just as she expected, her ex-husband entered the house while Jeong-in was away and stole the bank book. After confirming that he had taken it, Jeong-in went into the mountains alone, gathered highly poisonous wild berries, squeezed out their juice, poured it into a bottle of red wine, and placed the bottle in the most noticeable spot in the living room. Meanwhile, her ex-husband happily rushed to the bank. But when he discovered that the account contained less than $100, his face immediately turned pale with rage. Burning with anger, he gripped a knife and stormed toward Jeong-in's house with only one thought left in his mind, permanently silencing the woman who had deceived him. However, after searching the entire house, he could not find Jeong anywhere. Consumed by rage and overcome with thirst, his eyes suddenly landed on the bottle of red wine sitting on the table. Without the slightest hesitation, he grabbed the bottle and drank it. He had no idea that the moment he swallowed the wine, the final countdown of his life had already begun. In the room next door, Jeong-in and Hye-jung watched everything with cold and emotionless eyes. After some time had passed, the two women returned to Jeong-in's house carrying a hunting rifle, intending to finish everything once and for all. However, the house was completely empty, and her ex-husband was nowhere to be seen. Using the last of his strength, the man had managed to struggle into Hye-jung's house. The moment Hye-jung saw him, she pulled the trigger without hesitation, but unfortunately, the shot missed. Terrified beyond belief, the ex-husband turned and ran for his life, while the two women immediately chased after him with the hunting rifle. Before he could get far, the poison inside his body began taking full effect, causing his limbs to lose control as he collapsed onto the ground and convulsed helplessly. Jeong-in slowly walked down the stairs one step at a time. Looking at the man who had once filled every day and night of her life with fear, there was no fear left in her eyes, only hatred that had sunk deep into her bones. She said nothing more and pulled the trigger, personally sending her abuser to his death. That single shot ended the life of the monster who had tormented her for years while also destroying the former version of herself who had always endured everything without fighting back. And with that, the story comes to an end. In the end, Jeong-in finally escaped the people who had destroyed her life. But freedom came at a terrible price. Her story does not celebrate revenge. Perhaps the true tragedy is not what Jeong-in became, but the world that forced her to become that way. See you in the next story.